Okay, so obviously you can tell I'm moving pretty quick here. We missed a couple of shots here. Command phase, movement phase, physical phase.
The phases in their turn, their opponent's turn begins. When
Now,
both
again, you can
players
see how
have
this
taken
isn't
a full
exactly
turn, the
correct
battle round is complete. And a new
to
battle
how
round
reality
begins.
works.
This
But it's a
continues
calculation
until the
base that's
mission
way
ends
heavier than
and
most
one
people are
player
willing to
is
go.
victorious.
And again, when you bring those kinds of things to Fox News or CNBC or how it may present inside of the situation, promotion boards or committee meetings, things like that,
The command phase
they have a
is the
Penn's row
first
effect of
phase
passing
of
through the
each
barrier.
player's turn.
And generally, the person
It's
who
where
can
your
handle
army's
most of
leaders
these
steel
is,
themselves for
at
the
least in
battle
my
ahead.
opinion, is
The
probably
command
better
phase
for it,
doesn't
not
play a
because
big
it's the
part of
calculations in
learning the
hand
basic
off the
rules,
laurels,
but there are a
but
couple
because
of
of those
things worth
laurels,
explaining.
the probability
First,
of while
if
you
your
getting
army is
there to
battle
actually
forged
do it
at the
or
start
get
of
the
the
brief
command
to
phase,
actually
your
do the
army
mission
gets awarded a free
and dictate
command
the
point.
the
There's more
standards of that are
information about
probably
battle-forged
going very
armies and command
probable,
points
much like
in the
the
core book, if
probability
you're
of
interested.
us working a
But you
battlefield
won't need them
today
much in your first few
on a
games.
global
Second,
scale of
there
the
might be
actual
some
physical
game effects that need
topology
resolving
of
in this phase.
the planet as it
And with
stands
that,
today,
the command
that we could
phase
begin to
is
say,
over.
well, Russia's
As you become
forces
a
as a total
veteran
whole, at
player
least
of the
what they
game
tell
and
NATO,
learn
is
more about the
at
special
least
rules of your
190
models
right
and
now,
army,
given
the
Ukraine.
command phase becomes really
And then you
important.
start filling
But
those things
for
into the
now,
map on that
let's
scale,
move on to
right? You know,
movement.
so I want the map. We'll start getting a number in there. That's what the search says now. And if anything, it'll be a backtrack of where the search last was. Maybe it's easy to say IH. The shortest distance here is a known value that hasn't been augmented into here across eschatology that really specifically marks a position and how that would augment, much like a dice roll, D3, you round up to 3 if it was 2.5 or whatever, right? And that's how we begin to deal with the probability. But the reality is, here's just 2 units. Sometimes these will detach inside of a system,
or remains stationary.
but for the purpose of the calculation, while both of us share the even nature of the rule base, even if for some reason over equity you built more pieces than I did, wouldn't change if in the probability of that very first game at least, because that second game you're going to know some of my tricks, the field would stay the same, or we would change fields and go mods and periods, sine and cosine, Alice and Bob here, about how that determining function actually is the probability of statistical analysis on how to predict projectile momentum, momentum, and potential momentum into, well, linear, if you will, or angular here. They're going to optically lens this on probability, wave function, interference patterns, again, how a unit moves, and the response of knowing the noise-canceling headphones inside of this is a function, like a machine, a quantum operation, that doesn't deal with all the noise, but greatly reduces the approximation. Much like energy through a wire, mad pixies that they are, sodium ions, or excuse me, lithium ions being extracted from solution from super cold ammonia, eventually turn into lithium hydroxide. But in a proper EM bath that actually allows it to not, in a vacuum with an EM bath that allows that stuff to separate. Well, what is this right here? Well, we're saying electromagnetic waves work like string of code, right? You know, that's a wave. If in a wave, a probability function work that way. So I can then say, well, that will reduce some of the corruption in the video card here of the loop traveling through the CPU, CPD, CPS. Basically a DDoS attack on the DNS, right? Something of that matter. Now, I can't do any of that stuff physically. I'm not that kind of guy. But I'll certainly shake the shit out of a rabbit, man.
Special rules, you can bring it into play in the movement phase.
But generally, because a lot of these mass gaps aren't done in specific to STEM problems, that'd be a Rhodes conjecture, chaos theory, which is another name for it. Whether it's AX as an abruptly long sequence of reciprocating terms, or maybe you've heard it from the monopolist diminishing return from their diminishing commitment to the situation. This thing can be as valuable as gold, just like any standard under that of what the battle order's ranking structure is. First, we have to give them defined mass before they'll really begin to act like that, or maintain that structure within that supersymmetry, right?
In Warhammer 40,000,
there's no reason that this couldn't be the God particle, because what do we make? The same thing scientists make. We make soldiers, they make scientists, but the end result is that function within the bandwidth that maintains normality, at least to the approximation of heat death, and the expansion of the sun into a red giant, marginally red giant that takes Earth and its probability of the mass and those values based on known IH expansionary principles and the mathematics into those systems. Well, then basically you could say the electron position is the Oort cloud and the nucleus of that system, where at the quantum level, this flat surface compressed by gravity with one-dimensional curvature, ones and zeros. Did it work? Yes. Prime, right-hand rule. Did it work? No. Zero.
To do this,
does it work over a series? Well, -1, positive. Well, -1, because I'm down one phase, I have to go up to 0 before I get to 1, unless the results are renormalized under a function where through whatever standard somebody messed it up or something, you would get that back. But it would be easy to see against these probability structures, right? And then again, that's duality of this being a very heavy element, right? And eventually you get bolted to the floor, and, well, in the black hole we go. Over to wherever you're supposed to be buried. So again, I wanted those notes to be in here because I thought that would be a fun way to adjust this into any kind of recruiter's conversation. I am older. I'm 35. I got 2 neck tattoos and a couple of a DWI and a pot grow on my record. And I want to make sure, just like sometimes there's some really great guys in prison that are just really missing a lot of the structure and all that gets into that system. And I want to make sure that, if I'm ready to take that in, if I'm going to start talking stuff like that with a real structure that goes into that. And I'm not late on the standard because I got other books into the standard and situation that allow me to at least explain it from where I was living in this world while we deal with rewriting the Republican demographic the Democratic voting narrative of areas where they say it's not fair, and then dropping in a liberal in here as far as what the numbers are. Again, New York really only has a subset of National Guard units that would be able to adjust inside of that, but on the massive scale of troops as a military whole, that really, really changes how that factor works into these standards and situations. And of course, the smaller you go at the table, down to Hancock or a mill or something like that, obviously they're going to work very similar to this, given functional analysis and, change in field to the black body problem as a whole, right? Because you'd probably be in it. And again, that's going to get into a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm going to have some fun with you about, and I like to mess around with. Again, constant preachings, the redundant teachings of needing to do this and what its sub-element is, while having a specialty for how you may like to do this, or fill in a niche that may be on the floor. So we'll leave it at that. Catch you on the next one.